Welcome everyone to another episode of Groom A with Humanery. We are so excited to have with us today Richie Finney, the founder of Captain Fawcett, and he will be talking to us about his brand, his story, and many other things that we've lined up for you. Captain Fawcett, as you will see, is stocked on Humanery, incredible men's grooming brand that has a whole lineup of most phenomenal products, from fragrances to hair products, beard products, body washes. There's a whole range, and we'll talk about that in a second with Richie. And without further delay, Richie, welcome to Groom A with Humanery. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Sid. Thank you for having me on the show.
Of course. Now, Richie, I'd like to start with your brand story, if that's okay. I want to know a little bit about you and how you got to the point of starting your brand and what it means.
Okay. Well, it's quite interesting because I'm obviously, for the last 12 or 13 years, I suppose we should say now, Captain Fawcett has become really quite a strong and well-known brand. But it started very, very humbly. My history is I spent 25 years in the film industry. Mm-hmm. I was a boom operator of some repute, working on a collection of titles like Chaplin, Memphis Belle, Billy Elliot, to name but a few. And I used to make my own moustache wax in my kitchen in a little baked bean tin, and I'd make 6 pots, and I put them in those little 35 ml plastic pots, the kind of film that used to come in, and they'd last. And those 6 pots would last me a year. Now, my wife, who was also in the industry, she actually spent 40 years in the industry. She was a really, really well-known hair and makeup artist.
Okay.
She got the Emmy, for instance, for doing Downton Abbey. She got the BAFTA for Gormenghast, and she even designed Kate Blanchett's hair for Elizabeth, which got the Oscar. So one day she actually said to me, she said, the stuff we're using at work for facial hair really, really isn't any good at all. Can I take some of this into work for the girls for their floor bags?
Okay. Wow.
That's really how it started. So I bought 100 empty glass jars on eBay for 10 quid.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. We're now on pretty much every film set with accolades in the LA Times for supplying products to the Grand Hotel Budapest. Accolades again from Peter Swords King, who got the Oscar for The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. So we're really well known in the film industry. And that's really how it all started.
That's fascinating. But what's the story behind the name Captain Fawcett? And tell me that am I saying that correct? Because I think that's another thing that I'm curious about.
Well, I'd say that I mean it's Captain Fawcett. It's Fawcett, so you're throwing it away, Fawcett. Otherwise, we run the risk of it sounding a bit like an American tap.
Like a tap, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
which is Fawcett.
Yeah.
So the whole idea really is a bit of a parody on that kind of Britishness, that keeping a stiff upper lip regardless kind of mentality, which happens to be one of our trademarks now. It's lampooning that to a certain extent. So the whole name Captain Fawcett comes from a homage to those explorers of yesteryear who, yes, found all these amazing countries, except there's lots of people living there already, but found them and then claimed them as their own.
Well, that's a debate we can have for a while, because actually the truth is a lot of people, and frankly, from a personal front, including my father-in-law, I've gifted him one of these tins.
Okay.
And he actually has a fantastic mustache, and he loves the mustache wax, or at least your genesis comes from mustache wax. Is a great way to boost the self-confidence of a man. It's not so much about whether it looks good or not. Of course, it makes them look good, but it's also about that feeling from inside. What do you think about that? Has that been a sort of feedback that you've gotten from your customers?
I think, yes. I mean, because when we started 12 years ago, 13 years ago, there were very few companies manufacturing moustache waxes. And those people had limped on from yesteryear and had really had kind of lost the whole plot. But it was at that particular period of time, then the beard phenomena, which is still with us. People keep talking about peak beard and it's going to go away. It's still with us after all these years. That phenomena was coming about, and that's a whole history in itself. But yes, I think there's nothing. I mean, I'm reaching into my pocket now, a little bit of a lull in the conversation, and I said, we are presenting ourselves. So it's a bit, I think, the whole era of men becoming slightly more dapper, more conscious of themselves, more conscious of the way they present themselves, whether it's hair, skin, facial hair, or whatever. So we've entered that new era. So moustache wax is perfect for that.
Actually, while we're on this, do you mind giving me a quick demo of how a mustache wax might work for someone? I have one in front of me. This is the one that we get in the tin.
Okay.
This is the booze and backy one.
Brilliant. The first recommendation, I've got the same one. Snap.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
The first recommendation I would make to anybody who is interested in waxing their moustache is, first of all, you need to have a little bit of length there. Because what people will happen is quite often people will trim their upper lip.
Yeah.
Because there's various reasons for that. It might be annoying their partner. They may be getting food into it, or they may even find the spikes going into their upper lip a little bit discomfortable. So what they will do is trim. But that's one of the worst things you can do, because you're making it particularly sharp. And it's only going to grow.
I actually tend to, just a little bit of the upper lip that gets a trim. Yeah. Yeah.
So I would suggest having it a little bit longer, and then using a wax just to push it off the upper lip. I haven't even waxed at all today. There's nothing there. Then you push it away from your lip. Now, and then before you worry about anything really rather super and architectural, this is just so here we are. Yep. Keep the wax warm. Keep it in your pocket. I haven't waxed today. I didn't realize we were going to be doing this. Otherwise, it's just as well. So just literally.
And then, how much have you taken? Do you mind showing us just about how much you took in your hand or your?
I've just taken here literally a back of a thumbnail.
Back of the thumbnail. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, never seen that.
And that's really the best way to get it out of the tin.
Yeah.
Now, if you end up with lots of residue, unsightly residue, I'm trying to do it into the camera now, then by all means, give it a quick waft with a hairdryer, not too long. I'm not a person who recommends using heat on a hair whatsoever. And then, so now what you're doing every morning is just literally putting it away like this. And then again, then you can start feeding some of that through.
That handlebar sort of look, yeah.
Yeah, if you want that, you don't necessarily have to have that. People will have.
Oh, look at that. That's fantastic.
That's without me doing it into a mirror, but you can just see now the way it's flowing.
Yeah, yes.
And flowing up. And
yes.
Yeah. Now, I also make an expedition wax, which is extraordinarily strong. And I only really ever use that just for those very perky tips, just to stop them splaying. Now, I should say, I had no idea that we were going to be doing this. And I haven't been able to prepare something like they do on the old TV shows, be able to bring out the box and say, here's one I prepared earlier. But this is being shown completely live. No special effects have been used. Nobody's been hurt in the making.
Oh, that's highly impressive. That is very impressive.
So there we are. It's really, really quite simple. But the important thing is to push it away from your lip. Now, if you look at my lip, there's probably, this needs to be a little, normally I'd probably put a little comb there just to find the center. You can see, you can actually see more of my lip.
Yes.
You can see of yours.
When it was a bit longer, I have used it before, and I genuinely find that this is also something that makes my skin feel a bit more soothed, because I think maybe the hair is a bit softer and put in place.
It's a bit like growing your hair out. You're going to go through that period where it just looks really awful and you need to stash it into a beanie or something. And that's when you'll get all your friends, colleagues saying, and your partner saying, oh my God, what are you doing that for? You look an absolute mess, cut it all off. And many people will succumb. And then people might get, ridiculed by their work colleagues and so forth. That's why a lot of guys tend to grow out their facial hair when they go on holiday. The thing to stick is to stick with it. It's your journey, and really blow what anyone else thinks. If they want to do a better job, then let them. It's your personal thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That is fantastic. It is very personal. And I think I just want to end on the note that this is an incredible gift set as well. So for anyone who is getting into it and you would like to encourage them to feel more confident about their facial hair and that journey, try these products out. And they're available today at humanery.com, and much more will be talked about that in a second. Richie, I'm also curious to hear about your take on the journey itself. What was the hardest part about then taking it to market and then making Captain Fawcett?
Well, this may sound Yeah, this may sound slightly arrogant. I didn't take it to market. The market approached me. So by now I had this, this large kind of square island, in the kitchen, and I'd be on my knees and I'd be pouring these jars, and I'd go round again. The ones at the front I'd put to the back, and this became quite serious. And then some of them wouldn't set properly, so I'd have to get up at 2:30 in the morning and just reheat them and melt them and all that. And while I was doing all this, I got a phone call. So, okay, there was one friend of mine. She helped me set up a Facebook page, right? And she's still involved with the company. And then I was literally pouring all this wax, and I got a phone call from people who became my first ever distributor in Holland, and I'm still working with them. And they phoned up and just said, we'd like to stock some of your moustache wax, and the whole thing just took off from there. And without wishing to sound arrogant, I never ever looked for customers. They actually kind of came to me. Obviously, the skill now is keeping the customers and being able to expand. And we sell into over 48 countries, and 80% of our products are exported to literally everywhere in the world.
Yeah, that's very fascinating. So what do you think are the defining characteristics? Because you started with mustache wax, and now, of course, the range has expanded dramatically. What are some of the defining characteristics of?
Yeah, I think we have over 260 products. So, I mean, very soon after that initial period, there's a chap who helped me put together a little kind of advert type thing, a bit of artwork. Ian is still with the company now. We do all our own design. We still make all our beard and moustache products in-house in our building here, although I don't actually actively make it now. We employ 22 people, but we were right at the beginning of that, that beard thing, that beard push, which was about 12, 13 years ago. And as I said before, doesn't show any great signs of going away in a hurry. But then I thought, right, okay, well, we've got beard products. Well, one of the guys we work with was, we've never paid anybody for influencers, but we work with a well-known, Shoreditch kind of inverted commas hipster. It's an overused phrase, but everybody knows what we mean by that. And I suddenly thought, well, we've got all our eggs in one basket here. Supposing this guy, fashion is really a fickle friend. That's one of my kind of quotes. And supposing this guy decides in a moment of madness, in my opinion, to shave his beard off, we're high and dry. We're up there with nothing, So I thought, well, let's do some shaving stuff just in case he wants to shave his beard. So then we started doing shaving stuff and shaving creams, and then that led into various hair products. So being on brand is very much like being in character. So it's about it's not an affectation. It's you are it.
Yes.
That's one of my things about recommending being a brand is being authentic.
What advice you would be giving to someone who's just thinking about how to elevate and upgrade their self-care? What advice would you give them on what to do? What are the simple steps they should do? And now you're a man with great beard, great facial hair, and hair on your head. I must say, I'm quite envious. I hope I have that kind of when I'm your age, but really keen to hear your advice.
Well, this is really interesting. I think the most important thing is to find your own style and your own look. And that can be affected by, what you've got, because so many people who are bald would really like long hair. And, people are never really happy with their lot, but invariably your lot is what you've got. So you're not going to be able to really change that. So it's actually to accentuate. And I think it's very important to enhance your own individuality. And luckily we're in an age now where people can really wear and dress however they want to without fear of anything. So I think it's very important to investigate yourself, have a look. I mean, if you're going to grow a beard, just grow it out and then go to a barber who will look at your face and just say, right, well, this accentuates your face, this lengthens your face, this, if you've got a round face, this, or you've got to want to shorten your face or whatever. So it's about using what you've got to the very best of your ability and being really individual.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Richie, do you mind giving me a quick demo also of a beard oil? What is a beard oil and what can it do for someone who's growing a beard, has a beard? What are the advantages and disadvantages? And I have in front of me, same tin that we talked about before. I have the Booz and Baki beard oil here with me.
Yeah. Well, the Booz and Baki are ready to go.
All ready to go. Got it here, right here in front of me. I have the 10 milliliter
Okay.
one. Yeah.
Well, okay. This is the 50 mil booze and baccy, which is quite an economical way of purchasing it rather than the small 10 mil ones. If you want to get a feel of a particular beard oil, then by all means get a 10 mil as a kind of a bit of a tester and work your way out. So this is one we did with Ricky Hall some years ago. Booze and baccy. It actually is made from 10 essential oils. Very few have that kind of quality.
Wonderful. Yeah. And all made here in the UK in your building.
All made in the UK, all made in our building here in Norfolk. There's a museum here. People are very welcome to come and visit and see the process. So the advantages of using a beard oil is not only does it nourish the actual facial hair, as most people will know, hair when it leaves your body, in actual fact, is dead, right? So what you're trying to do is just create that moisturizer in it. So I'm dropping that into the.
How much did you take? How many? So
I've taken a half a pipette full, and it's now falling because I've got rather a long beard. So the important thing is to get that in.
And did you rub it in your palms before?
I did. Yes, I did. Then rub that into your skin, get it right underneath here, because this will stop various things. Because what can happen is your facial skin can dry out.
Right.
So it will not only moisturize. Now, you can use a beard balm. Advantage of a beard balm is that will add a certain amount of bulk and allow you to, I haven't got a brush from here, will allow you to give it a certain amount of shape. It's not like a hair pomade, which is a heavier thing. So what this will do is not only, I mean, you can't really see in this, not only will it give it a delightful smell, it gives it a nice, bright sheen to that, and it's worth them brushing it through. And you will find people coming up to you saying, my God, your beard looks, I mean, luckily, again, we're at that period in time where people, men can approach other men quite often and say, oh my God, your beard looks great, mate, or all that kind of stuff. So there's no real stigma attached to that. And then quite often I'll go up to people in the streets and I'll see them with a good moustache and I'll say, hey, hi, and I'll go to give them a business card. And so many times now they'll reach into their pocket and bring out Captain Fawcett's products. And for me, that's extremely warming. There are other products available, but I would say that the care that goes into ours, the quality of the product, never mind the packaging, is really second to none. Yes. I think we are market leaders.
I can attest to that. I mean, look, I've just put this on and not only is it a nice fragrance, it's a very light beard oil. It doesn't feel very thick and sticky in any way. And I've just put it into my skin, and I don't have a very, very long beard. I wish I could get there, and hopefully I will give it a shot, but it really makes the skin feel nice and the beard's kind of soft and smells nice.
Well, a beard oil is also really useful when it is short, because as you say, we're going through that difficult period. At least if it smells nice, your partner's going to be saying, well, that's kind of okay. And they may well support you on your journey.
I'll have to show my wife this segment after we're done so that she'll support it more.
Yeah. And as it gets longer, as I said, a little bit of beard balm can be very, very, very useful, but it's taking pride in your chosen look.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that makes total sense. One other question that we keep getting, and Richie, we're curious to hear your thoughts. What is the issue with buying products that don't have the right ingredients? What are maybe some of the harmful effects, but also maybe what are some things that it won't do for you?
Okay. Be wary of cheap products, because they'll be often using synthetic oils, and the fragrance literally will be a fragrance rather than something derived from essential oils. Having said that, working with essential oils themselves can have their own problems because they do have allergens, whereas a fragrance won't necessarily have. So you've got to be very, very careful how those are all put together. And again, any product worth its salt cannot be resold unless it's actually had all its stability, compatibility testing, and is actually then entered on what was the EU cosmetic portal. Now we have a UK variation. So, that takes at least 3 months to be done. So I would always suggest buy quality. But there will always be some person who likes to ride a bicycle to work. Absolutely no problem with that. And there's always somebody who'd much rather go in a chauffeur-driven Rolls Royce. You make your choices.
Wonderful. That is the best way that I've heard it described ever before. The metaphor, the analogy is fantastic, I must say. All right, Richie, can you tell us about an inspirational moment in your life? One where someone that you really looked up to showed you a new way to do things, to overcome adversity and setbacks. What was the situation, and how did it inspire you?
That's a really, really difficult question, because once upon a time I was riding dirt bikes in South Africa, and the guy who was running it was like a really motivational speaker, and had all these guys like crossing on hot coals and all those kind of things, suspending the fear of being hurt. And it was actually interesting enough, a couple of guys got really burnt, but I digress. And he suddenly was pointing, there's all these people, he had this captive audience, maybe 90 people there, in a sort of semicircle around him. And he pointed, and he pointed at me and said, who do you look up? Who inspires you? And I actually had to say, nobody. I've never aspired to be anybody. I've never wanted particularly anything. I've always wanted to excel in what I've done. I've always wanted to be, and that is not a competition with anybody else. The competition is with myself. I don't really care, to a certain extent. That may sound a bit offhand, what other companies are doing. I think it's very important to be true to your own vision and believe ultimately in what you are doing. There are moments, of course, when you will have some doubts, because let's face it, we're only human. But I think the best feelings, the best inspiration, the best direction really comes from your gut, and you have to follow that. So rather than wishing to be somebody else or follow somebody else, you've got to somehow find a belief in yourself, because if you don't believe in you, who in the hell else is gonna?
Yeah. Very true.
I'm sorry if that's not the answer you wanted.
No, that in itself is quite inspiring. Believe in yourself, because if you ain't going to do it, who's going to do it? So that makes a lot of
people can subscribe to your belief. I mean, all I've done is I had this idea, and I've had these incredible people who've come along. Some of them have been dragged along kicking and screaming, but they've been able to use their skills and add and extend. So that's why I never take credit. But ultimately, you've got to have that belief, because if you haven't got those beliefs, you're going to turn around and there's going to be nobody there, because if you don't believe in it, why should they?
That makes total sense. Look, I don't think anyone would disagree. And that in itself is quite inspiring. So, Richie, in closing, we're going to do a quick 10-question rapid fire round. And in this,
okay,
not have any time to think about your response. I want your gut response. And question number 1, celebrity that you think has the best skin?
For my age, me.
Okay, all right, that's a good one. One item that you never leave home without?
I never go anywhere without my wash bag.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Yoga or weight training?
I do weight training because I find it very difficult to calm and sit down for yoga, so weight training.
All right, that's a good one. Most memorable starstruck moment?
When I had my head up Michelle Pfeiffer's skirt.
Oh, can you care to elaborate?
Well, I can, if it's not going to incriminate anybody. As I mentioned before, I was in the sound department, and I was working on a film called Stardust. And she was one of the witches there. And she had a very, very, very tight, she was one of the 3 witches, as I said, very, very tight black dress. And there was no way of getting a mic in. This is a huge shot, really huge shot. It actually had 2 studios have been opened up to get it. So the only way was to get a radio mic on her. Now, a radio mic has a little pack, which is very, very visible. So on a tight costume, unless they're going to keep their back to the wall, that's where you normally hide it. You can't do that. She was whirling around like a dervish. So I then had to use a kind of a band. We used bands, a bit like a kind of a wide elastic band with a pocket in it. So the only way to hide it in a really tight dress is to put this leg strap, as it were, as high up the thigh as you can and face the actual radio mic pack in the inner thigh. You have to be very careful, because then the radio pack has a little aerial, so you have to be careful that doesn't tickle anything particularly.
Right.
But what you can do is invert the pack so that the aerial hangs down, but then you also run the risk of, in the middle of it, shot literally dropping out, so that's really careful. And then you then drop the radio mic down the bodice. I mean, I worked with one actress who described it as a daily flossing. You then drop the radio mic down the bodice and then join the 2 things together, then secrete the little radio mic in somewhere in the costume there. So I'm not particularly a starstruck person, but I love Batman. I love Catwoman. Michelle Pfeiffer's rendering of Catwoman was just something else. So I actually got to design one of my little programs for that. So that was my starstruck moment. But I mean, literally, I had my ear to a tummy as I was kind of dexterously trying to put this radio pack on, whilst at the same time holding a certain amount of decorum.
Yes. Well, that is a very, very interesting, the most interesting story I've heard so far. And male celebrity that you think has the best hair or beard?
Well, Jason Momoa takes some beating, doesn't he?
Quite right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Well, Richie, thank you very much for being on our show, Groom A with Humanery. We are so glad that you made the time to meet with us, to share all these wonderful, inspiring, very funny and interesting stories in some cases. And the Captain Fawcett range is now available for purchase at humanery.com. You can also, for viewers and listeners, use a one-time discount code called podcast10 to get 10% off for the first purchase that you make. Come try these products. We really think that they're great. I mean, I have this in front of me here. It's a wonderful gift as well. And we hope that the brand Captain Fawcett keeps spreading its wings, helping men getting into the best quality self-care possible, taking their grooming to the next level. And Richie, thanks again. Really glad to have you here.
It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you as well. And thank you for your time.
Of course.